being with me at such a late notice of this webinar, I am going to give you a free gift, but you've got to stay until the end to receive your free gift. I promise you that it's going to be yummy, because I like giving gifts and I love to give yummy gifts as well. So many of you may know me from my 20 years of experience in human services. I come from a human services background. I have worked for the Department of Behavioral Health. I started out in nonprofit. You know, I tell people I grew up in nonprofit, working for the YWCA of Greater Atlanta for about 8 years, and then moving on to the American Cancer Society and other smaller organizations in between. So I have a 20-year history of in the human services field, government, academia, and corporate. And so I'll tell you this, when I started out, I was a game changer, guys. I was the game changer. I was the go-to person. I was the person that people wanted on their team. And so when I started out, I knew that, hey, I was the go-to person. I was great at what I did. People wanted me on their team because they knew that I could get things done. And so about 10 years ago, I decided to start my own company, the Resurgent Group of Metro Atlanta, where I'm a consultant, and I consulted with, started out consulting with people who are in the mental health field, who needed help staying out of trouble with Medicaid and staying in compliance with the state guidelines. And so that's what I helped them do for many, many years, initially from starting my business right out of the gate. You know, started my business right out of the gate, guys, I was making 6 figures and did not even set out to do that. It's like, you know, it came up to the end of the year and there I was like, wow, wait a minute. You know, when I was doing corporate work, it was pretty easy. It's like a no-brainer to make 6 figures in corporate contracting. But, you know, here I am at the height of my business that I just started, and then something happened. I lost a tremendous amount of money in my business. So let me back up a little bit and share with you, when I started my business, I had a lot of clients and people paid me. They paid me because they were probably afraid that I was going to go back and tell the state what they were doing. So they always stayed in my good graces. But then there was that one. It was probably about 5 years ago now. I had a client who he needed some major help in his company, and I knew that me and my team could help him. And so we had a contract. The contract was probably about a $60,000 contract. We got him accreditation. We did audits. Like, we really went in to turn his company around, because that's what I was so good at, turning companies around, getting them back on their feet so that they could provide the services that they needed to provide. And so we were midway through our contract, after being paid about half of the contracted amount, and then payment stopped. Yep, payment stopped. And so I was trying to work with the client, and all of a sudden, you know, we're 30 days, 60 days, 90 days behind, 6 months, a year. What's happening here? Am I going to get my money? I had people to pay. I had a team. And so my team needed to be paid. I could not wait for this money to come in to pay my team. So I had to pay them, because I believe when you have a business, you operate in integrity. And so about a year and a half went by of really trying to negotiate and work with this person. And it really came to the fact that I'm not going to get my money. After payment plan and payment plan, it wasn't going to happen. And so while we were going through that process, I fell into some traps. And those are the things that I want to talk to you about today. I fell into some traps that made me experience pain and loss and grief while in my business. I promise you, this was a new place for me because I never experienced that before in my business. So there are 11 traps that losses create. And so we're not going to talk about all 11 of them today, but we're going to talk about 7 of them. And I like to think that they're the 7 major traps that we fall into when we experience a loss in our business. And I use the word loss because loss, grief, pain, you could be in any area of your business where maybe you were on top, where your clients were coming in, the money was coming in, and then it's not coming in like it used to. And so you feel that pain. You feel that pain. It is a loss. You may, I have a client where he was doing some major things in another life, and he kept holding on to the glory days. And that was keeping him from moving forward in where he was in his business today. So he was grieving his past life where he had been majorly successful, right? So we've been there. I know when I left government and I went into academia, I was like, oh my God, I grieved that place that I had come from. And so when you're in business, you have to really pay attention to these, when we're experiencing pain and loss and grief in our business, we've got to pay attention to these traps, right? So I'm going to hit you with the first trap. And the first one is the mistake trap. The mistake trap. So I know for me, it was all about how did I let this happen? I am Dr. Lowe. I wasn't the Riot Starter then, guys. But how did I let this happen? People pay me. It was a huge mistake. How did this happen? And so when you're feeling that, you also feel I felt like such a loser. I felt like, I'm supposed to be a business person. How did this happen? This huge oversight. Now, I'll tell you, the mistake trap is also in alignment with perfectionism. How many of us want to be so perfect in our life, our business, and career? But I'll tell you this, in business, you're gonna make mistakes. You're gonna mess up. You're just when you think you've got it, you're not gonna got it. Okay. And so I fell into that mistake trap of almost like the woe is me, constantly replaying in my head, how did I let this happen? Why didn't I see it coming? And so the best way to get out of this trap, guys, is to talk about it. When I was in this phase, I didn't want to talk to anybody. I didn't want to share. I was feeling the pain and the sickness of, oh my goodness, how did this happen? $32,000. And I used to know the exact number, but I'm free from that now. So I don't know the exact number, but I knew the exact number to the penny. So you've got to talk about it. And I remember the first time that I talked about it, I was on a John Maxwell call, and we were actually studying the Sometimes You Win, Sometimes You Learn. And I got to share the story because I had not planned on sharing the story, but it was probably time for me to share the story. And I got amazing feedback from people who had been there and who had experienced the same pain and loss, but larger than I had. So one of the ways of getting out of the mistake trap is truly talking to having a trusted guide, having someone, a coach, a consultant, a business friend who can really understand what you're going through and help you get out of that trap of, I call it the woe is me, but it's how did I let this happen? Because it happens. Things happen in our businesses. So guys, the next trap I fell into was the fatigue trap. Oh my goodness. There's nothing like a pain and loss that will make you just tired. You're up late at night, you're trying to figure it out, you're compounded with how did I let this happen, and you don't have the energy and you don't feel inspired either. And so you're just tired. And guys, when you're in this trap, when you're stuck in this trap, it's hard to be creative. It's hard to move forward with a plan. It's just hard because all you want to do is go take a nap, and think and hope that when you wake up, it's a nightmare and your money will be in the bank, right? Or the checks in the mail. So we have to be very aware of the fatigue trap, because the fatigue trap will hold us. It's like being in that perpetual place of napping, so it'll hold us and it'll keep us stuck. So how do you get out of the fatigue trap? You've got to talk about it, for one. Two, you've got to take care of yourself. You have to take care of yourself while you're in this place. And you have to recognize that your fatigue and your lack of inspiration is because of what you're experiencing and what you're going through. And so try to get back into a regiment. Try to do things that are going to be healthy for you. Minimize the alcohol, minimize the Xanax, and just really go through it. And that's the thing about when we have these losses, we're not supposed to sit in it. We're supposed to go through them. And the fatigue trap is one of those things that will keep you stuck in it. Okay. So the next one, guys, is the comparison trap. Oh my God. Compare and despair is what I've heard. Compare and despair. And so when you experience losses in your business or even in your career, I see this with a lot of my career clients. We want to go into this comparison thing, this didn't happen to Joey. Joey's been with the company for X number of years. Or, Susie's had her business less time than I have. And she, this has never happened to her. Someone's done this, longer than I have, and it's never happened to them. Stop it. Stop. You cannot compare someone's letter F to your letter A, or someone's number 20 to your number 5. Okay. So you can't compare. You have to put blinders on. You have to look at the issue at hand as a learning lesson. Now I'll tell you right now, I didn't appreciate the lesson until I went through the lesson, right? Because when you're in it, it hurts. I couldn't talk about it without crying. I just want to go take a nap, right? And so I'm looking at people around me, thinking about how they've been able to maintain and do all of this stuff, and it's never happened to them. But the reality is that's what we have in our mind. We don't know the pains and losses that they've experienced in their business to where they are now. So we have to not fall into the comparison trap, because the comparison trap also keeps us stuck in the current mindset that we're in. We can't be creative when we're looking at somebody else's garden. And when we're looking at somebody else's garden, we're not looking for motivation or inspiration. We're looking and comparing where they are to where we feel we're supposed to be. And what we need to realize is that the journey that we're on is supposed to prepare us for where we're really meant to be. And on this journey, we're going to have some pitfalls. We're going to have some pains and some losses, but the key is to not get caught in these traps. So the timing trap. Oh my God, the timing trap. It's not the right time to get back out there. And guys, I'll tell you right now, the timing trap is so related to trust, because once you make a huge misstep or mistake in your business, you don't trust yourself, right? It's either people are going to pay me everything up front or, you come up with these drastic things, or you're not ready. It's not the right time. You second guess yourself. And so I use the analogy of, if you are 20 today, if you're 20 today, in 5 years, you're going to be 25. Whether you start or not start, you're still going to be 25. And so the thing about the timing trap is meant to delay us from getting back on the horse and starting all over again. It's not the right time. I like to see the timing trap also in alignment with that perfection trap, because once we experience some major loss or some major pains in our business, we feel like if I can make it perfect, if I can make it perfect the next go round, then it won't happen again. Guys, listen up. That was the one pain that I've experienced. I've experienced several after that. Now, not as financially painful, but the pains and the losses that we experience are designed to teach us so that we continue moving on. So don't fall into the timing trap where, it's not time. The timing trap is probably the biggest trap that will keep you from getting back on the right track. And then this one is great. This is what us smart people tell ourselves, well, I'm only human. Things like this happen. The rationalization trap, want to rationalize it. And the thing about it is that it keeps us stuck in our head, but it doesn't put us back into action. It keeps us, when we rationalize what happened, it keeps us stuck in our head, but it doesn't push us toward action. Actually, when we're in the rationalization trap, we're kind of minimizing some things. And so when we're rationalizing and minimizing, what it's doing is it's keeping us from being honest about what we can do differently, what could have been done to prevent it, and what's going to happen moving forward. And so the rationalization trap also helps you to, it also helps to get out of this trap by having the right people around you, the right people to just really just yank you out of the trap and make you have some conversations around some harsh truths about what happened. So, many of us, when we start a business, we're really creating a job for ourselves. We don't know what we don't know. We know that we want to have a business. We know that we want to serve people at a higher level, but we don't know what we don't know. We don't know that we need SOPs, standard operation procedures, and financial procedures, and all of this stuff. And so we just start rationalizing certain things in our head. And so we need to surround ourselves with people who know a little bit more than we know, who can really just kind of shake us out of this rationalization so we can get back on track, fill in those gaps of what we don't know. Because guys, it's not what we know. We can do amazing things with what we know, but it's the stuff that we don't know that really sets us up for not being able to excel and move to the next level. So this trap right here is probably, it's a big one, when we make mistakes and have pain and loss in our business. The trap of public opinion, the old, what will they say? What will people say? And so I didn't want to talk about it, guys, because I didn't want to hear the judgment. I was judging myself enough. I didn't want to hear what other people were going to say. They didn't understand. And the reality is, when I actually stepped out and shared, I got back so much encouragement. I got encouragement. I got direction. I got the things that I needed to help kick myself back into gear and out of this trap of the public opinion. What will people say? Well, the reality of it is, people who have things to say that are not encouraging or educational to get you out of this trap, they've never even taken the risk to do the things that you're doing at the level you're doing them. So if they've never started a business, if they've never lost any more than $5, you don't need to worry about the public opinion trap, because the reality is you're judging yourself enough. And so you have to once you release the judgment on yourself, then it makes it a little easier to deal with what the public may say. And at the end of the day, it's really not about public opinion. That public opinion trap will hold you in such bondage, and it will keep you keeping secrets. I come from a therapeutic background. And so one of the things that we used to tell our clients is our secrets keep us sick. And so this is so applicable to when we're in business, because we don't want to talk about our failures, our losses, or our huge, missteps in business. We don't want to talk about, I made some decisions that were in bad judgment. Okay. And it caused this. We don't want to talk about that. And those are the things that we need to talk about. So don't fall into the trap of public opinion, because at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter, but it is still a powerful trap that you don't want to find yourself stuck in. And then the last trap is the trap of self-image. How do you see yourself during this time in your life? And keep in mind that it's one phase in your business. It's one phase in your business, but you've got to make sure that how you see yourself is what's going to help you move beyond it. So I tell you, I felt like a loser. I felt like, oh my God, how did I let this happen? I felt horrible. But there was still something inside of me that said that I was going to be able to move forward, that yes, I deserve to have a thriving business, that there was something that I was supposed to learn from this. So I never lost the image of myself. And so you have to not let these situations tarnish who you are and tarnish your self-image of who you see when you look in the mirror. Because if you see yourself as a loser, it's one way to feel like, oh my God, I feel like horrible. But you have to separate that feeling from who you are. Like, I feel like a loser, but I know I'm not a loser. That's the difference. I feel horrible because this is happening, but I'm not a horrible person. Okay. I feel like there's some things I don't know as a business owner, but it doesn't mean I don't deserve to have a business. And so you got to be really careful about the self-image trap, because what will happen is when you start, and I align the self-image trap with the gremlins and the mind monkeys, because they're the things on your shoulder, in your ear, telling you that, well, you couldn't do it anyway. Or they're in alignment with some of your friends or your family who says, well, you just need to go get a job. You don't need to be doing that. You've lost enough money. And so that's why it's so important to have people around you that can understand where you've been, because people who they've not been there, then they can't help you get out of those traps. So it's so important to have people around you who've been there, who can understand, who can help get you out of this trap. So guys, when we experience losses and pains in our business, they never leave us the same. You look in your mirror and you say, I haven't changed, but I'm not the same. And no, you're not the same. Because the reality is, if you remain the same, if you continue operating in the same way, you're going to have to repeat the lesson. And I don't want to repeat that lesson again. And so I want you to think about what pains and losses have you experienced in your business that you don't want to repeat again? And then what did you learn from those pains and from those losses, right? And so for me, I learned I needed community. So when I started my business, it was just me. I pulled in some of my colleagues to help out. It was great, but I didn't have anybody telling me about the stuff I know now. I didn't have anyone really teaching me about developing the foundation of a business and how to operate a business today. Now, if someone started a business 30 years ago, we do business a little bit differently today, right? So I knew I needed to be in a community. And I knew that I needed new skills. How many of you need new skills? There's nothing that I learned in my undergrad, my master's, or my PhD program that prepared me for business. Oh, well, okay. I took a consulting course in my PhD program, but none of that taught me about what I needed. So I needed new skills, and I needed to assess what I didn't know. I know what I know, and I know what I'm good at. But what are those things that I don't know? Because see, we have to close the gap between what we know and what we don't know. And so I was on a quest to really do an assessment on the things that I didn't know. There were things just as far as automating payments, and just different things in the financial industry that I didn't know that probably could have helped me a little bit sooner. I needed to create more revenue streams, you know? So many of us, when we start a business, we're so excited about what we know how to do, right? And that's all we want to know how to do. That's all we want to do until something happens. So when I started my business, it was in the height of, there's plenty of money, plenty of Medicaid money, plenty of providers around the state. And then things change. Things dry up. And you realize, wow, okay, so now I got to find some different clients. I got to do some different things. I need to look at my business differently. And so many of you may need to create some new revenue streams, because, the more revenue streams you have coming in, the better it is for your business, your life, your career, and your legacy. And I also learned that I needed to diversify. I needed to diversify not only my business, my skill set, my talent, my partnerships, just all around the board. I needed to diversify. So I want you to think about when you were in your pain or your loss, or you may be in it now, what did you learn? What did you learn? I want you to just write that down. What are the things that you learned? Because when you really get honest about what you learned, then that is what's going to drive you to do some other things, right? The biggest thing I learned was that I was not put on this earth to be stopped in my tracks. I was not put on this earth to be stopped in my tracks, and neither are you. Neither are you. And so that within itself was enough to get me out of the traps. I just didn't know how to get out of the traps, right? And so, I go back to, I want to go back to, I needed community. When I just lost $32,000, right? And most people would say, well, you don't need to spend any money. You need to hold on to the money you got. But what I did was I invested in a program that helped me understand community. I invested in a program that helped me learn the new skills, that helped me to create more revenue streams. And I've invested in several programs after that have helped me to take my business to the next level. So it's so important to really document what you learn and where you need to fill in those gaps. And again, know that you are not meant to be stopped in your tracks. And that alone should be enough to get you out of these traps. So that's what I learned. And from there, I did something. I already told you how I got into community. I got a coach. I had, I think, 5 coaches in this particular program. And I got a consultant. I got a local consultant, because all of the coaches, they were in other states. And I created strategic thinking partnerships. So my question is, who are you thinking with? Who's your accountability partner? Who's holding you accountable? Who's helping you think through things? And they need to be several paces ahead of you. It's so funny. You can be around people, and anything that you do, they're like, oh, that's great. That's great. That's great. But then you can be around someone who's 5, 10, 15 feet ahead of you, and they're going to point out some things to make it better, because they want to see you win. They're not just your fan, right? So you've got to create strategic thinking partnerships. Who are you thinking with? And then I got clarity. Guys, I got so much clarity. I'm still getting clarity today, but I got clarity on what it was I wanted to provide, how I wanted to provide it, who I wanted to provide it for. And although that's had several iterations over since then, but I got clarity. When I first started my business, and I'll say, I created a job for myself. It was great. I wasn't thinking about being in this place. And so once you are in a painful place, once you experience a loss or you experience this grieving place in your business or your career, it is truly a catalyst for change. It is truly a catalyst for change. And then I created revenue streams because, once you get clarity, then you're thinking, first of all, once you lose some money, guys, once you lose some money, the next thing you don't want to lose any more. And so you're thinking about it, you're looking at, how can I create some more revenue streams? How can I close the gap on leaving money on the table? I would hate when I would meet with my coaches and they'd say, you're leaving money on the table. You're leaving money on the table. I'm like, really? So I created revenue streams because I don't want to leave any money on the table. How about you? Do you want to leave money on the table? No, we want all the money off the table and in our pocket, right? So this is what I did. When I got free from those traps, I thought about what did I learn? What did I do? And then what did I create? So from that $32,000 loss, guys, that's what created this entire movement of Riot Starter, which started with the book and then the symposium and then the programs and then the brand. See, I started with the book, which, I had no idea at the time was going to turn into the brand that it is now, and then the movement. And I also created a new mindset for myself. And so I always knew that I can do and have whatever it is I want. I've encountered struggles and challenges before, not with such a huge price tag. But when you have that mindset that, okay, I am not going to quit. I am not going to give up. I am here to win. Then it puts you in that place of action. So here we are. You see the slide of, the symposium and the book and the magazines and all of that. All of that came from this loss, this place that could have kept me in 11. We only talked about 7, but 11 traps. And I think I was probably in all of them for a good little period of time until I had to really push myself out, right? So I'm proud of the person I've become because I've worked so hard to create her. And I know that you are too. I know that whatever pain or loss or grief that you're experiencing in your business or your career, that if you think about what have I learned, what do I need to do, and what can I create from this, it's going to set you on a higher plane. So I want you to take some time and think about it. I want you to write this down on a piece of paper. What losses have caused you, what losses have occurred that have caused you to experience pain in your business, and what have you learned from them? What have you learned from them? See, the big thing is we don't stop long enough to think about what we learn from our losses. We get so caught up in that very first one. How did this happen? It's not supposed to happen to me. Or guys, we blame. We blame. And there was no one for me to blame. There was no one for me to blame. I had to accept responsibility. And so in doing that, what did I learn? What did I do and what did I create? Where do you, and the creation thing is, where do you go from here? And sometimes it's easy to do it. I needed help. I knew that I'd taken me as far as I could take me, and I needed help. So I'm not just the Riot Starter, but I help people get clear so they can execute their dreams in 90 days or less to create amazing legacies. That is my elevator pitch. Yes, I'm a podcaster and an author and a professor and a this and a that, but at the end of the day, this is what I do. I help people get clear so they can execute their dreams in 90 days or less and create amazing legacies. Because that's why we're doing this, right? We're doing it. I tell folks, it's not just about, I want to make more money. If that's your why, then it's not big enough. And when you make the money, you're still going to be searching for something else to fill that gap. And so helping people start riots for their life, their business, and their career is something that I'm passionate about. So I don't know if I mentioned this at the beginning, is that I was going to, before we started, I wanted to say that I was going to tell you how you could get more from what we were talking about today. And typically at this point, I'd invite you to join me in my Blueprint 90 program that helps people to get that clarity in 90 days or less. And these are some of the things that we do in Blueprint 90. But I'm not going to do that today. Today, I want to invite you to do something else. Today, I would like to invite you to schedule a complimentary discovery call, because I know that you're probably experiencing some type of pain, some type of loss. You don't know who to talk to. You don't know the questions to ask. You know that you can't stay where you are and you need some help. And so I'd like to offer you this complimentary discovery call. But before you rush to sign up for it, I have a couple of questions. And so you need to answer these questions, and each question must be yes. So the first question is, I want to finally get to the root cause of my problem. Are you ready? Are you ready to get to the root cause of the problem in your business, your life, or your career? If you are, check yes. Are you an action taker? So don't sign up if you're not an action taker. You know, I want people to take advantage of these discovery calls because they're ready to take action. They're ready to release themselves from the traps. So the next thing is, you feel like your business is in a place where it needs to change, but you don't know where to start. Guys, I didn't know where to start. And so if that's yes, if you checked 3 yeses so far, you're almost there. And then if you have an investing in myself mindset, so when I see I need help, I invest the time, the energy, the money, whatever is necessary to get the help that I need for my business or my career. So many of my clients, I've got a group of clients where their jobs pay for them to work with me. And so it's a little bit different if your job is investing in you and when you're investing in you. And so do you have that, I'm going to invest what it takes to get out of these traps, right? And then the last question that you need to ask yourself is, do I value this offer? And am I fully committed to showing up for my discovery session, ready to take action on the suggestions that I receive? So these are the 5 questions that you need to ask yourself before you schedule a discovery session with me. Complimentary discovery session. Are you ready to take action? Are you ready to get to the root cause of what happened? Are you ready to release yourself from these traps, right? And so if you're ready, then I want you to go to this website, allowingmindset.com, where you can grab your free gift, as well as grab a copy of my new audiobook and ebook. And so when you go here, you'll have an opportunity to, again, grab the free gift that I mentioned earlier, and you'll have an opportunity to sign up for the discovery session. So keep in mind, make sure that before you take advantage of the discovery session, that you go back and you ask yourself those 5 questions. Those are the qualifying questions for you to take advantage of this offer. So I hope that you enjoyed our session today. I hope that you learned about these traps that keep you stuck when you're in pain and experiencing loss in your business. And I hope that you're able to release yourself from these traps so that you can go on and create an amazing life, an amazing business, and an amazing career for yourself, but most importantly, an amazing legacy. So that's all I have for you today. Thank you for joining me on this Friday. Look for the replay in your inbox, and I'll talk to you soon. Until next time.